Scott Wilcox here with BioGrowth 365 with Tory Friedman. Tory, we're standing in clearly one of the nicest alfalfa fields I've ever stood in. Can you give us just kind of an orientation, where we are, what elevation are we at, what time of the year are we at, and how old is this crop?
Okay, we're standing at about 4,300 feet in Unionville, Nevada, Buena Vista Valley, between Lovelock and Winnemucca. We're standing in a fourth cutting crop. The stand's 5.5, going on 6 years old. What are we, September 25th about?
Yep.
We'll let the stand go about another 2 weeks, just for tonnage. We're proud of her.
I don't doubt it. So this is your fourth cut that you're coming up?
This will be the fourth cutting production.
Perfect. All right. Listen, why don't you start by telling me how you came upon BioGrowth 365, how you've emerged into the user that you are for us, and just kind of give us some history.
Well, it comes down to I think the micronutrient base that we've been missing. It's kind of been a wrench in the toolbox, if you will, that we've been missing. We played a lot of games in the past, and what it comes down to, BioGrowth 365 is a product that our crop understands.
So when you first were introduced to BioGrowth 365, did you see it as sort of a total nutrient package, or did you have other things in mind initially?
No. In fact, our ultimate goal was with the product was to help build basically flocculate the soil, create a broader horizon, if you will, and then also increase the biological component that we've been missing. We've played with biologicals in the past to a degree. They perform, however, they're not accompanied with the micronutrient that BioGrow offers for the long-term approach, if you will.
Right. So over time, they're going to rob your soil, essentially?
Well, if you're not careful, that's what will happen. With BioGrow, what we get to do is we get to increase and set our biology, if you will, and then also back it up with micronutrient.
Gotcha.
So what we have is basically it's a complex diet, complex plant nutrition that all synthetics don't touch.
Gotcha. So let's take a look at your field here for a minute. You were talking to me earlier about lateral versus vertical plant growth. Can you just show us what you're talking about?
Yeah. So here's the whole key. Okay, now granted we're sitting in fourth. It's, I don't know, what is it, 84 degrees out. What we're after here, so we don't grow desert hay, what we want is lateral leaf growth. We want leaf retention. We want the spacing to be harmonized within the crop. And by providing BioGrowth 365, what we're getting is basically a lateral type of growth versus vertical, which is important to us. It means tonnage, and the leaves mean sugar. We want to sell sugar.
Gotcha. So you've been on BioGrow now for 4 years, is that correct?
And then 4+ anyway.
Okay. And so you're doing annual testing of your fields, and can you tell us just sort of what kind of results that you're seeing in the testing that you're doing, both in microbiology and plant growth and in proteins?
Well, here's what we know for sure. We're pushing tonnage. I don't like to go into tonnage numbers per se because we blow the state average. We blow it out of the water after 2 cuttings. So when you talk tonnage to some of our farmers, they're not going to understand that we're over 7 ton to the acre or over 6 after 3. And then we've got another 2 ton to the acre sitting there. So what it comes down to, this is tonnage. And you've got a stand that's healthy, rebounds, And I think that's one of the most important things with BioGrow 365. The rebound after crop stress through harvest
Right.
is quite profound.
Well, listen, let's get down to brass tacks for a minute, because at the end of the day, farming is about yield per acre. It's not necessarily about input cost per acre, but yield per acre. So can you tell us, I mean, you can even do it in generic terms if you want, but what kind of input costs are you looking at? What kind of yield production are you getting? And kind of what kind of spray application are you doing to get this kind of result?
What I like to do, you know, you can look around here, and if you look down at the bottom pivots, every application is different, especially when it comes down to the life of the stand. I do minimum of a 2 gallon an acre per cut rate, so that's an 8 gallon to the acre rate per year, going on a 4 cutting rotation.
Yep.
We'll run about a 28 to 32 day cycle, and that is quite effective on a standalone basis.
Okay. And this is not your first. This is not your first dance. What kind of decreases, if any, have you seen in your nutrient program using BioGrow as opposed to a regular synthetic program?
Well, it comes down to the soil. It comes down to conditioning the soil. We in Nevada here, we have a really tough soil profile, along with our water. Super high alkaline, super high mineral loading through these pivots. What we get to do with the BioGrow 365 is we get to flocculate those soils, open them up, and a lot of times that's all the plant needs. You can throw a bunch of synthetic on, right? But if your soils aren't conditioned properly, you're just going to run it down the street. You're going to run it down the road, run it down the pivot track. And that's the reason why I started using it in the first place. Not as a fertilizer, but as a plant and soil conditioner. Then when you find out how the biodiversity works in the product, then you realize its characteristics throughout the use of it.
Yep. So you're using generally what we recommend. You're at the lower range, but we generally recommend an 8 to 12 gallon per acre dosage. So you're confirming that. Can you tell me though, just on your total expenditures for your program, are you spending more with BioGrow? Are you spending less? Can you give us kind of a range on that?
Yeah. When it comes down to, we used to run about $150 to $180 acre program, and we've backed off into that $100 zone. And depending on market conditions of our hay, I'll push it a little further. When we got hay selling at 280, I'm going to add more nutrient. If hay's selling at 200, let's say 180, then I'll monitor it. But what's nice about BioGrow 365 is you've got residual effect, especially when it comes to fall fertilizer.
Right, let's just talk about fall fertilizer for a moment. My understanding is that you give a light dose at the end of the year. Is that correct? And can you sort of explain to us why you would do that?
Yeah, I like to put at least a 2 gallon an acre rate on. A tote works perfect on a pivot. That gives us 265 gallons, quarter mile around, 125 acres. Gives me a 2 gallon an acre rate. What I like to do, especially when my plants are storing carbohydrate, I like to put them to bed with energy. That way, come spring green up, water or not, my crops are ahead. So if I fall behind on water, especially in a drought condition, my plants don't know it. They come boosting out of the ground with energy come spring.
Well, you walked right into my final point, and that is drought resistance. Can you talk a little bit specifically about drought resistance?
Yeah, in fact, you're standing in a field right now that we had to rob water from to service these two other commercial pivots here. And we had to rob water from this crop right here. You're standing in fourth cutting hay. And that comes back to the bounce back theory of what BioGrow 365 does. You can stress it, but it still has nutriment. And I believe it's in. I think it's in the soil, the mobility, and the conversion process through the micronutrient and the biological activity. We've got a ability to frac nutrient here, mobilize soil. What otherwise it can be compromised due to the lack of biology. I'm not the science behind this. I just grow. I think the key component is mobilizing your soil's nutrient. And the backbone behind this operation, this stand you're sitting in right here, is the BioGrow 365 product. Micronutrients backed up with biology. Carbon, sugar. Boom, done.
So BioGrow 365, lower cost per acre, higher yields, better drought resistance, healthier plants and soil. So have I got it correct?
Affirmative.
Tory, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.